Well, we have a very special guest joining us on the line this morning, Kirill Dmitriev. He's the CEO at RDIF. That's, of course, the Russia Direct Investment Fund. Kirill, great to have you on this morning. Thanks so much for getting up so early for us. Now, you are one of the architects of this Saudi-Russia détente that we've seen growing over the last several years, which, of course, the OPEC Plus agreement was a major part of that. What the heck is going on? Is it as bad as everybody says? Do you think that we're going to see them getting together by the end of this week for some kind of deal?
Well, actually, have a very positive message. I think they're very, very close. So if you look at the announcements that President Putin made on Friday, he basically talked that Russia is ready for a 10 to 12, maybe even more million cut that is important for the markets. He talked about how important this oil deal is. So Russia is committed. And I think we came through a long way with Saudi Arabia. We overcame lots of difficulties. You know, many people were doubting we would do the first original cut deal. We were able to succeed. So I think we are much closer than many people think. And I think the whole market understands that this deal is important and it will bring lots of stability, so much important stability to the market. And we are very close.
When you think about this a bit more broadly in terms of what we've seen over the last several weeks, all of this obviously feeling the major impact of the uncertainty surrounding coronavirus, COVID-19, of course, spreading so rapidly through Europe, spreading so rapidly now through the United States. When you take a step back and think about what this could potentially mean for the global economy, how tough do you think that we're going to see things over the next 18 months?
Well, we believe in major global recession. And frankly, we talked about this in Davos, that already leverage was too high. We have over 300% leverage as percentage of GDP in the world. And in 2008, during the crisis, it was only 220%. So any shock could really delever economy significantly and lead to major problems. And we see a major shock. So we see a major recession in the world happening. Russia is positioned quite well because it has less leverage than most of the countries. But it's an example that we need to work together with the US to stabilize the world economy, and stabilizing oil prices is one part of it. US could lose 10 million jobs if the market is not stabilized. So we are working very close with US, with Texas regulator, with the energy minister of the US to have US participate in the upcoming cut in the oil markets as well. And I think it's Russia, Saudi Arabia, US, other countries that need to step in to stabilize the markets and to bring stability in the world that is about to see probably the greatest recession ever.
How long do you think that it will be before we see a recovery? How deep do you think the recession will be? How long do you expect that it will last? And by the time we get to the end of 2020, is that when you think we'll see a recovery?
Well, we hope to have some recovery starting next year. I think everybody is doing the best they can in fiscal and monetary stimulus, and I think all of the steps are significant. But just the so significant drop in demand is very important. And also we believe in approach that Korea has taken and other countries of testing on the virus and then resuming economic activity. I think resuming economic activity is very important. It's impossible to have everybody sit at their homes for the next 2-3 months. So I think testing program is very important because you cannot let people go without testing. So severe mass testing is very important to resume economic activity.
Kirill, when you think about this with regards to the United States and Russia, so many times we've talked about the U.S.-Russia relationship and that it was potentially improving under U.S. President Donald Trump. But at the end of the day, we had this article out by Henry Kissinger a few days ago, basically talking about the world needing some sort of global leadership. Many people would say that the United States is no longer going to be the one to bring everybody together. Where does Russia stand on this? Is there an opportunity for Russia to take the lead?
Well, no, I think it's an opportunity for us, US, and many other nations to take the lead. You know, and just as we were fighting in the Second World War, many nations uniting together, it's really this opportunity. And for us, it's very interesting. You know, we helped finance some of the half of the cost of the planes that were sent to the US, and the amount of negativity we saw that this is Russian propaganda, to me, is amazing.
Because a lot of people said that that was an opportunity for President Putin to score some political points on the President of the United States. What's your response to that directly?
Well, those people, if they look at Russian media coverage, is very moderate, frankly, very minimal coverage. And I think at times like this, Russia, just as Second World War, the US, you know, we need to work with one another. It's very important. To us, we had some crazy comments that this is RDIF seeking legitimacy. Well, we don't need legitimacy. We are working with 18 top sovereign wealth funds in the world, very successfully, etc. So I think we were very impressed with operational US team that allowed us to send this out very professional team, Russia and US working together, and we wanted to contrast this with the political side of some people who wanted to politicize and make it really a big deal. So for us, we really need to move forward, and to move forward, we need to develop trust. We really need to understand that this is a major challenge that can be overcoming with the US and Russia working together, put behind some of our differences, and really develop positive agenda forward.
You've said that you think that we're headed directly into a recession, and that's something that you don't see lifting for quite some time. You've got billions of dollars under your belt to put out there in the market. What looks attractive to you right now? What are you looking to invest in at such a volatile time?
Definitely all sorts of online solutions, and we invest in quite a bit in online messaging systems, and we see major surge of online traffic. We also investing in some medication against COVID, and this is Parampavir, which is a Japanese medication that we want to produce in Russia. We also invested in testing systems, and we looked at 20 top testing systems. We invested in a company called EMG that we believe has one of the fastest and efficient testing solutions in the world. It's a mobile unit that can test 20, 30 people an hour as a mobile station. So I think there are lots of opportunities, and I'm sure COVID will pass. So we believe this year COVID will be behind us. But we need to be much more careful about other kinds of things like this affecting the economy in the future. So I think people and companies will be much more careful about testing of the employees. And for example, we already have 40 Russian companies who contracted with us 2 million tests, but we see a backlog of test requests of more than 10 million tests in Russia. So we see that testing is a huge area that needs to develop even when COVID is finished.
And Kirill, when you think about your investment strategy going forward, obviously Russia, under sanctions from the United States, has looked eastward to China, other Asian nations in the past. Obviously, right here in the GCC, Saudi Arabia, the UAE have been looking eastward for the last several years as well, developing those partnerships. When you think about what's happened with regards to COVID-19 and the lack of information sharing, a lot of people saying that, we can't trust the Chinese when it comes to what they're saying about COVID-19. We can't even trust what they're saying when it comes to PMIs. How does that weigh in your investment strategy, that potentially you can't trust your partners?
Well, we actually benefited from the network of 18 funds we have, and we got first information from China actually in mid-January that this is very serious, from a company called BGI, which is a top genetics company in China. We then are working very closely with UAE, who are doing amazing testing programs. They're basically testing their whole population, and we learned a lot from them in knowing how to use different protocols, which tests work the best. So really, it's the best time to unite as countries. Vaccine development is very key. Russia historically has been very strong on vaccines. We need to work with the US, but basically there is no interconnection, no discussion of our joint vaccine work. So I agree that there is lack of information, lack of unity. It's a disaster. It's really a big problem. It needs to be changed. And we see from our partnerships, from our sovereign wealth funds, that we are working well together. We are bringing our tests to Italy and France through our partners. So basically, it's exactly time for countries to start working together. G20 call was an important one. President Putin call with President Trump after this was an important call. So it's about world leadership and people putting behind differences and real understanding that exchanging information is absolutely key to save lives right now.
I want to go back to equity markets and your investment strategy. How much further do you think that equity markets have to fall if we hit the bottom of the downside yet?
Well, I think, again, it's driven mostly by emotions of people, and it's difficult to predict emotions of people. I think the next couple of weeks we'll see will be very tough for many countries in terms of coronavirus. We hope that after the next 2 weeks, due to measures taken on restricting movements of people, it will get better. So I think people need to stay calm and understand that coronavirus will pass. As the world will definitely defeat the disease. And I think momentum could still go downward quite a bit because of the emotions. But definitely we expect market recovery, next year for sure, and maybe even later on this year.
Kirill, final question. You and I have talked so often about the value of economic diplomacy and how that opens doors, not just here in the Middle East, but globally. What does the world look like post-COVID-19?
Well, I think it's a world that understands that we as a nation, as humankind, have some values together. We need to focus more on our commonalities and not so much on our differences. So I think it's a world that understands and cherishes more also what we have. Because I think many people didn't really appreciate basic things before. Now they do. So let's come out of this appreciating basic things and really developing better relations and valuing those relations more.